Hello there and welcome back to the shed. Today we're going to be talking about curves. I'm going to explain to you what curves are and how you can use them to get much more detail and colour and contrast out of your deep sky images. We're going to be looking at the curves controls in both Pixinsight and Affinity Photo. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, so here I am back at the desktop. I've got Pixinsight loaded. I'm going to use Pixinsight just because the Pixinsight curves tool is nice and big and it's going to be easier to demonstrate things. Also, it's got a couple of good visual features which will be good to try and explain a couple of concepts. I've got this image here of NGC 7000. It's a megastat. It's been initially stretched, denoised and sharpened, and that's about it really. So I'm going to just load up the curves window. Here it is, and I will just open the real-time preview as well so we can see what's going on. Right, couple of quick concepts here. So the curves window itself, left-hand side is shadows, right-hand side is highlights, and this diagonal line that runs from the bottom left to the top right-hand corner, anything that we pull above that line will be increased, anything we pull below that line will be decreased. We've got various options here as to different curves we can control. At the moment we've got RGBK selected, which is basically the red, green and blue channels which will be controlled together so that they will all be affected equally by whatever we do. We can also select red, green or blue separately. We've got some other options here which I will come back to these a bit later, but there are things certainly like saturation and what have you. So let's start off with a simple one-point curve. Just going to click on the middle and I'm going to drag up a little bit, and you'll see that the image just gently brightened up, the whole thing brightened up quite a bit. In fact, because it's a curve, the mid tones would have brightened slightly more than the shadows and the highlights. If we drag the thing the other way, we'll just drag this point down, then we've just darkened it, and it's the same thing. It's just quite a gentle way of darkening the whole image. Okay, I'll reset. Now I'm going to just show you a two-point curve. So firstly I'm going to put a point towards the right hand end of the curve, and I'm going to pull it up like that, and you can think of that as brightness. Then I'm going to put a point near the left hand end of the curve, and I'm going to pull it down a little bit like that, and you can think of that maybe as contrast. And that has given us a gentle S shape. That's why we call it an S curve, obviously. Used a lot, that one. So let's just reset it. Now I'm going to show you a more targeted way of using curves. So if I left click on an area of the image, on the curves control you'll see the red, green and blue channels are being brought up, and you'll see where they lie between the shadows and the highlights. And as I move them around, you can see that they're moving to different positions. So if I'm in somewhere quite dark, like a quite black region, they're over on the left hand side. If I go to somewhere lighter, they move over to the right hand side. If I get lighter still, maybe there, that's into the center, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if I wanted to target, say, this area, then let's just have a look. That's just to the left of center. Okay, so I'm going to put some anchor points on the curve, like this. This is just to stop anything I do on the left-hand end of the curve affecting the right-hand end. So let's just have another look. Yes, that's just to the left of center. So maybe put another one there. I'll put another couple down here. Let's just have another look. Yeah. Okay. So now if I just grab the center of this part of the curve, if I lift it up, you can see that that area is now being brightened, or I can drop it down. That area is being darkened. So you can see I've got very accurate control over a particular part of the image based on its brightness. And this could be very useful particularly sometimes for getting dark areas darker. So for example, we might well use that kind of selective curve to make this quite grey area blacker at some point. Okay, so now we've explained a few basics. I'm just going to use curves now to try and develop this image, make it brighter, make it more colourful, and change the colours actually, so I'll show you how we go about that. First thing I'm going to do is just brighten it up a bit, just to get started. Always small steps. I never do anything in large steps. You want to do small progressive steps so you can really get a feel for where you're going with it. So that's it. I've just moved it up a bit. Click the apply. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to click apply again. Then I'm going to click reset and do a little bit more of an S curve this time. That's quite nice. Apply again. Yeah, maybe. One more then. I'm going to stop there a minute. So reset. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to change the colours. Now this should be more of a sort of salmon pink. It's quite green at the moment. It's too green really, so what I'm going to do is take the green curve and I'm going to just drop it slightly. And you'll see we're starting to develop a bit of colour here. Now that's probably enough, so I'll just apply that and reset. Now I'm going to maybe increase the saturation a little bit, so I go right down to the other end here and I have the saturation button, so I'll just click on that. This is the saturation curve, so just increase the saturation. I just pull the curve up a little bit. There you go. Apply that. And I think actually I quite like that, so I'm going to do it one more time. Then reset. You'll notice me resetting, by the way that this works is because I'm using this real-time preview. Effectively, I make some changes, but the actual image underneath won't get changed until I click this apply button. So I'm always actually one step behind, which is kind of useful because it does mean that if I feel I've gone a little bit too far here, I just don't click that button and I'm still actually at the previous step. So that's quite good. But once you click reset, you bring the preview back in line with the actual image. So that's where we are now. So I think I'm going to try and, yes, darken this dark area down a little bit. So I'm going to go back into the RGBK for a minute. And then I'm going to just have a look at this. So where is it? It's all in that area. So I think I'm going to just put a little anchor point about there. We'll go about halfway up. I'll do another one there. Then I'm just going to see what happens. That's quite good actually. One problem here, and this is to do with the image really, there is a lot of blue noise in this image. So we could try and, let's just try and get that where I want it. I will go there. We could try and do something. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'll give it a go. So I'll look at some of this blue here. We'll just try and figure out where it is. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just try just a gentle pull down on the blue and see what happens. See, you see that's definitely improving it. But it's a question of how far you want to come down, really. I mean, Actually, I think that's probably pretty good. All right, I'm going to live with that, so let's just apply that and reset. Anyway, that just gives you an idea of how you can use curves to sort of develop an image. Just to give you a comparison, we've gone from here to here, just using curves. Anyway, the other thing we've got here is the stars. I'll just show you a couple of things you can do with stars. Just get these out the way a minute. There we go. I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but I'll just show you a couple of tricks. So we can use curves to do various things to improve the color of stars, change the color of stars. You can tighten stars up to some degree, or you can make them, you can blow them up a bit more. You can show more or less stars with curves. Probably something that people don't really use enough for this actually, but I'll show you what I mean. So I could just lift up the curve. So I could just lift up the curve. There you go, I've got more stars coming in now. I can tighten them by using an S-curve here. Don't maybe want to go too far, but you can see that's what's happening. I can just demonstrate this a little better. I'll put a preview window in. So you can have a look how that would work. So as you can see, I mean, you never want to get really sharp edges on stars. They're never going to look right if you do that. But sometimes you get too much halo. And as you can see, I'm just pulling in the halo. I can affect that just by using curves. That's probably a bit too extreme. Let me just do it that way. You see? Or I could reduce the number of stars and the halo. So I could reduce the number like that. And again, bring the halos in. So I'll go the other way, which we probably don't want to do that. Let's just reset. Go back to the main stars. The other thing I can do is saturation. So if I want to, I could give them a bit more color. There you are. You can go as far as you like with that, really. You probably find maybe, I don't know, it's maybe a little too green, for example, so we could pull the green channel down a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to reset that and then pull the green channel down. Obviously, it's getting ridiculously too colourful now, but you see my point. Yes, that's probably too much. Let's just desaturate that a little bit. Anyway, that gives you some idea. You can do quite a bit with stars using curves, and that's how you would go about it. Oh, and just before I finish on Pixinsight, I did say I would explain what the rest of these icons did. So let's just take a quick whiz through them. I'll just open the preview. Okay, so we've got the red, green, blue, RGBK, which we've already been through. We've got the alpha channel, which is to do with transparency. That doesn't really come into it with this particular file type. We've got lightness or luminance, which is what it sounds like, really. Kind of, again, use it a bit like a brightness and contrast curve, really. we've got the green to red component. This is a different color space actually, the CIE color space. This is called the A component, and this will move us between green and red. It's something you would, you're going to need a very specific reason to want to use it, but so you'll get, we can completely change palettes with it. Can do all sorts of weird stuff with it. Where do we go with it? Quite interesting actually. You can kind of fake all sorts of stuff with it. That's almost narrowband now by just playing with that. I'm going to reset that one. The next one is the same CIB, which is blue yellow. Again, we could go up or down, go down into the blue. We could push the yellow up a bit. Do all sorts of weird stuff with this, really. Don't know why I'd want to do that, but anyway, that's that one. We've got this one, which is kind of colourfulness. It's the C component. It's a bit like saturation. It's supposed to be, though, more natural. So we can use it just like we'd use saturation. It doesn't look very natural in this case because it was already a bit saturated anyway, but we can go back out a bit. Anyway, that's just an alternative saturation. We've got hue. Let's just reset that. We've got the hue, which can kind of just move colours around, really. Do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with hue. Again, if you want to do modern art with it, I suppose that's very nice. And then finally we've got saturation, which we already went through earlier on. So that's that. Anyway, we'll now move on and have a look at affinity. Okay, so here's affinity, and let's have a look what we've got here. So we're going to go for the develop persona, and then we've got curves. Now with affinity, really it's obviously quite a lot more simplistic, but the master is the equivalent of the RGBK, and then we've got red, green and blue. So we can still do a lot of the stuff we were doing. Let's just have a look. So we'll just use the same principle. In fact, I'll try and sort of roughly duplicate what I did before and see what happens. Okay, so just lift that up a bit, give it a bit of brightness. Yeah, that's okay. And then we click develop. Then we have to open it up again, which is a bit annoying. Obviously a bit slower, really. Can't repeat steps with this, unfortunately. A little bit more, develop. Open it up again. Maybe a little bit of an S curve. Not too much. They're pretty good though, actually. They're quite, they're quite responsive. A little bit small, I find it, a little bit fiddly, but anyway, I suppose you get used to that. Develop. Back to curves again. A little bit more. Again, not too much. Develop. Back to curves again. We're going to give it a little bit more. Actually, maybe push that a bit further. Try that. Develop. And we keep going. It does seem to take a bit more effort. I certainly feel I have to work harder with this program, but it's still quite good, isn't it? It's still pretty good. I'm going to have one more. We'll have one more decent go at that. Then we go back in. Now, green. So, as we did with the other one, we're going to just drop the green channel a bit. There you are. That's quite good. Then we're going to boost up the red channel a little bit. Develop. We'll try the master again now. I want to see if I can get a little bit more contrast in there. Develop. Okay, now let's see if we could do what we did before. Let's see how we could get on with doing a bit of a... So we're going to put a few nails in again. As I say, it seems a little harder to, because it's so small, it does make it a little harder for sure. It's not bad though, I quite like that. So I'm going to hit develop again. Then I'm maybe going to just try a little bit of a red curve. Again, same idea. Put a few nails in. See if we can just... that's quite nice actually. This is the thing, this is where you can't click on it. You do miss that feedback and be able to sort of see exactly where you need to place that curve. Where you need to place that point, I should say, but you know, a bit more trial and error, I guess. That's quite nice though. I think that's quite good. So I'm going to hit develop again. Let's just have a look at. Let's just have a look now. We're going to have to guess, but we remember that this was this area was fairly central, where the hand cursor was fairly central. Let's just go back to the master channel a minute. And we'll put a couple of, oops, reset that. We'll put a couple of nails in. One there, one there. And then we'll just see. Yeah. You can see we can still, still works pretty well. Maybe I can make it a little bit tighter. Let's try that a bit more focused. You right click to get rid of these points, by the way. Right. Yeah, it's not, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe I need to put a few more nails in. Goodness me, get the nails in the right place. Let's see what we can do now. Yeah, so you can see we pretty well nailed everything else down. And we can affect that area. I think we're probably a little bit too tight on it. So we make it a bit gentler, and it will also broaden out. It'll make it less selective. It was being too selective. We will focus too tight on one area there. So see what we've got now. There you are. That's quite good. Although it does seem to blow it out very quickly. Maybe I'm just in the wrong place. Anyway, I better stop playing with it. But that's pretty much Affinity. So you've got the 4 channels to play with. You can still play about with multiple selection points, and there's a lot you can do with it. Anyway, I hope you found this fairly useful. And if you've got any questions, then please drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you again soon.